Thank you, Lori, and thank you, Diane, for inviting me, and thank you, all organizers, for including the impact on animals when we're talking about food and agriculture. As Lori mentioned, I feel very privileged to serve the Humane Society of the United States. This is our logo, and you can see it consists of 19 different animals in the shape of the country. We work on all animal issues, and we work on a national scale, not just conducting rescue, which is so important, but inevitably deals with the symptoms of the problems, but looking to prevent cruelty and looking at the broadest, biggest issues of our human relationship with animals. And one of the central questions that we confront at the Humane Society of the United States is the incredible moment of contradiction that we live in now in our society. With so many expressions of love and appreciation for animals, but so much cruelty occurring on a vast and industrial scale. I did write a book called The Bond, and the thesis of this is that there's a bond built into every one of us that gives us a head start in doing the right thing for our fellow creatures. All kids have this connectivity to animals, and all of us here at some level have a connection to other creatures. We have so many expressions of this bond and appreciation for animals in our society. 2/3 of American households have dogs and cats, 171 million dogs and cats. We let our cats on our kitchen tables. We sleep in the same bed as our dogs. There are another 140 or 50 million pets in our households. There are more pets than people in American households. We spend more than $50 billion a year on our pets. Another 80 million of us are active wildlife watchers. We take to the forests and the fields to watch the incredible feats of flight of birds and other creatures and take in the tonic of being in the natural world and experiencing an area that's not completely controlled by humans. These ideas are embedded in our culture. There are 20,000 animal welfare groups in the country. There's an animal group for every kind of animal. There are groups that work on Chihuahua rescue or St. Bernard rescue or feral cats or you name it. There are rabbit rescue groups. We run a rabbit sanctuary for homeless and injured rabbits. We say we're providing hope for the hopless. And there's an animal group for every kind of creature. And of course, there are farm animal groups, and there are groups that are thinking about every sort of creature in crisis. And we have a nation where the basic notion that cruelty to animals is wrong is already a universal value. All 50 states have anti-cruelty statutes that codify the notion that malicious torment of animals is not just a moral problem, it is a legal problem. And it is a felony in 47 states. Cockfighting is a federal felony, and it's now illegal in all 50 states. Dogfighting is a felony in every state. So staging fights between animals, even if you have some sort of interest in that and get some sort of titillation from it, we as a state, as a nation say, no, you're not allowed to do that. We're going to protect the animals from that sort of vice and that sort of entertainment. But what about farm animals? The largest category of animals in use in our society. 10 billion animals raised for food in the United States every year. 10 billion. More animals go through slaughterhouse lines every year in the United States than there are people on the planet. Just as a logistical enterprise, it's an extraordinary sort of thing. And how do we feel about this? I mean, we love our dogs and our cats, and we express, all sorts of appreciation, fascination for wildlife, but do we care about farm animals? Well, all of the surveys show that indeed we do. Here's a survey from the American Farm Bureau Federation, kind of the symbol of industrial agriculture through Oklahoma State University, measuring public attitudes toward farm animals. 95% of people believe farm animals should be well cared for. 95%. Every survey shows this, that we care about all animals, including animals raised for food. And we at the Humane Society of the United States don't talk so much about animal rights. We talk about human responsibility. It's really more about us than it is about them. I mean, we need to understand a basic framework when we're talking about animals, that they think, that they feel, that they make choices, that they want to live just as much as we want to live, that they want to avoid pain and suffering just as much as each one of us does. But it's really about our choices. Because in the relationship between us and animals, we hold all the cards. We have all the power. We are the lords of the animals. We make life and death decisions in our society without even casually thinking about it sometimes. The little actions that we take have such consequences for these creatures. And one of the greatest disconnects that exists in our society is our relationship with animals and what we think we believe and how we act in this world, where animals are not just a sidelight to the human experience. Whether we realize it or not, they're at the center of the human experience. And they've always been at the center of the human experience. And are we syncing up our values and our beliefs with our conduct? You know, this is a barren battery cage. 280 million laying hens in the United States, and 95% of them are in these barren battery cages, 6 or 8 birds jammed into a cage. Each bird, under the industry standard, has 67 square inches of space. Now, this is an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. 8.5 times 11 is 93. So 67 is 2/3 of this page. That's the living space that a laying hen has as the industry standard and norm in our nation for the 1.5 years that she is alive. 1.5 years in this space? I mean, it's as if 8 or 9 of us were in an elevator for our whole lives. Imagine after 5 or 10 minutes how you'd feel stuck in an elevator. Imagine if you were stuck in there for the whole day or a week or a month or a year or 1.5 years. I mean, are we this uncreative when it comes to agricultural practices? Are we this miserly? Are we this oblivious to the needs of other creatures? To do this sort of thing to them? To confine them in a space where they can't even turn around or extend their limbs? Is that the way we are? Is that the kind of country we are? Is that the kind of people we are? Or take pigs. This is Smithfield Foods. It's one of their farms. We did an investigation, an undercover investigation there. These are pigs in gestation crates, the breeding sows. The females have it worst in the general sense. These sows are in a 2-foot by 7-foot cage. They can take 1 step forward and 1 step back. They can't turn around. The only time they get out of that cage is just before they're going to give birth. They're moved into another cage where they are similarly immobilized. And then after a short time with their piglets, then they're reimpregnated, put back into the gestation crate. 7, 8, 9, 10 successive pregnancies, 3 years, 3.5 years in a cage. Now, these are intelligent, sociable animals. I mean, is this what we should be doing to them? If we did this to a dog, you could be prosecuted under one of those anti-cruelty statutes. So how do we narrow the gap? How do we address these problems with 10 billion animals, so many of them caught up in this industrial food production system, where the animals are no longer animals? They have been turned into meat, milk, and egg producing machines. They've been genetically manipulated to exaggerate certain body parts. They've been moved from outdoor settings where they could feel sunlight on their backs and soil beneath their feet, where they could amble around, where they could interact with others of their kind, and they could have a decent life. Yes, they're going to have at least one bad day when they go to slaughter, but the rest of their life does not need to be one of misery and privation. And of course, the answer is human creativity and innovation, which has solved so many things and made moot so many past problems through the advance of entrepreneurial activity and imagination. This is an aviary system where these laying hens can actually, to some degree, they can act like laying hens. They can perch and can get up in a high place. They can go to a nest box and lay their egg. They can move around. I mean, what a radical notion that animals built to move should be allowed to move. Or pigs. You know, Fred talked about this. I mean, these animals, they want to be around others. They live in a herd environment, but there are limits to the herd. I mean, you don't press them together side by side. So the ammonia overtakes the atmosphere, that they're living above manure that falls between slatted concrete floors. I mean, they should be able to feel some grass or hay beneath their feet. And the science is clear on these issues. I mean, our common sense leads us in the right direction. This is a Netherlands study about a variety of different egg-laying hen production systems. You can see that the cage system, the Barron battery cage, on a scale of 0 to 10, doesn't come in at 7 or 8, something that's a little deficient. It comes in at 0. 0. The barn system, again, not free range, comes in at 5.8, and aviary system, the one that you saw, at 5.9. I mean, these incremental improvements, little decisions for us that are entirely inconsequential in our lives, mean everything for these animals. Everything for them. Temple Grandin, there was a movie about her on HBO. Here's Claire Danes as Temple Grandin. She says, I feel very strongly that we've got to treat animals right, and the gestation stalls have got to go. The Pew Commission on Industrialized Farm Animal Production took a look at all of these issues that we've been talking about today. And they looked at the issue of the overuse of antibiotics and the manure management systems and the effect on rural communities, and they looked also at animal welfare. And the commission, which consisted of a wide variety of stakeholders, including a former USDA secretary, a former governor of a Midwest state, said the commission recommends the phase out of all intensive confinement systems that restrict natural movement and normal behaviors, including battery cages and gestation crates. You know, we've got to have these principles of anti-cruelty, the words humane. They're not abstractions. They're things that need to be put to work in our daily lives. And we have no better opportunity to put them to work in our daily lives with the food choices that confront us every single day. We've got to eat with conscience, wherever we are on the spectrum, whether we're a vegan or a vegetarian or we're an inveterate carnivore. We can all make choices that have better consequences for animals. And we've got to change the legal framework. 8 states have recently adopted laws at our urging to ban confinement crates or cages. Prop 2 in California, which was a measure to stop the extreme confinement of laying hens and breeding sows and veal calves, got more votes in a contested election than any citizen initiative in American history. People voted for farm animals, even though they were told it was going to cost them more, that there were going to be all sorts of problems and complications. People don't want the animals treated this way. Even the United Egg Producers, the group that was our biggest adversary, has now seen the writing on the wall, and it is now jointly supporting with HSUS an effort in Congress to have a minimum standard of care for laying hens, to ban forced molting, to reduce ammonia levels, to require labeling of all eggs in the marketplace, and to double the space allotment for the birds and to give them enrichments. And of course, all of us as individuals can take action. Meatless Mondays is a great, easy way to ease into this. And choosing higher welfare products, which are now more and more available in the marketplace, and we've got to demand that they're more widely available. And urging corporations, we're a capitalist economy, corporations have an enormous sway on our behavior, the opportunities that we have. All of these companies have taken preliminary steps to infuse their supply chain with more humanely produced products. And we've got to spread the word. You know, it's said that not a sparrow falls without his maker knowing. We've got to be mindful of all these creatures, every single one of them. Thank you.